What is your plan for creating jobs and bringing America out of this economic crisis? And do you believe that now's the time for fiscal...
Back up with 1.3. That's just necessary.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. So I want to just answer, I mean, I've given a detailed written answer, but I can just sort of speak my answer if that's...
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's a number of things that we have to do. I think many of the proposals that the President, including the American Jobs Act, are really the kind of focus of what we should be doing. First, we need to make a major investment in rebuilding the infrastructure of this country. Our roads, our bridges, our ports, our transit systems, our information systems. It is not only a really successful way of putting people back to work, and it's not just the people doing the construction. It's the engineers and the city planners and the cement manufacturers and the steel fabricators. So it has an economy that is tremendously large. And it's also essential to rebuilding our economy in terms of developing a platform so we can move goods and services and information to compete successfully in the 21st century. We have a deteriorating infrastructure all across this country. Rhode Island is no exception. It's an opportunity to really kind of build a modern-day version of the WPA. I've actually co-sponsored legislation with Judge Schakowsky that really takes this model of a massive investment in public works to really rebuild our country. I've co-sponsored the National Infrastructure Bank, which is another kind of model for a modern-day version of the WPA. But I think this is critical not only because it will put people to work, but we have to do it. And frankly, the longer we wait, the more expensive it becomes. It's like deferred maintenance. It's just deteriorating. And there's probably never been a better time to do a borrowing to do this than now. And so this is a really, I think, important priority when you think about what happened in New Orleans, what happened in Minnesota with the bridge collapse. There's also a public safety component of this. These are not going to repair themselves, this infrastructure, and it's getting worse. And we have a responsibility from all of those three vantage points to do it. So I think that's one key strategy. The second thing I think we need to focus on is reinvigorating American manufacturing. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for us as a country. It's for us in Rhode Island particularly. We have, a great manufacturing base. We continue to make the best products in the world. We still have the best workers in the world. But we don't have policies in Washington which support American manufacturing jobs. We have policies which undermine American manufacturing. And so we've put together an agenda called Make It in America. I worked very closely with House leadership on this to put together a comprehensive package of bills that will really help to rebuild American manufacturing in this country. The good news is for the last 2 years we've seen growth in manufacturing jobs. We want to be sure Rhode Island gets its fair share. We also, everyone should know that manufacturing jobs pay wages in excess of non-manufacturing jobs, so they're good paying jobs. What we need to do first is develop a national manufacturing strategy, which we don't have. We have legislation to do that. We need to end the manipulation by our trading partners, particularly the Chinese, which are putting us at a really unfair advantage. We have legislation to do that. I'm a co-sponsor. We're in the middle of a discharge petition because we can't get to the floor. We have to end the tax breaks that we currently give companies who ship American jobs overseas and create an incentive instead to keep those jobs here. I voted against the trade agreements because they didn't provide assurances that we would protect, labor rights and environmental protections to give American manufacturing jobs a fighting chance to compete. And so we have an opportunity, I think, with advanced manufacturing, new manufacturing. Some of the old, sort of really labor-intensive manufacturing we will not get back. But there's a lot of it we can get back, and we have a lot of it here that we need to grow, and it grows out of this new innovation and new technologies. The President just had an insourcing conference at the White House where he had companies there that are bringing stuff back. We have some examples here in Rhode Island, so I think manufacturing is another opportunity. Third area, I think we have to really focus on small businesses and being sure that small businesses have access to capital, that they have the kind of skilled workforce they need, which means investments in workforce development. The Republicans in last year's budget proposed the elimination of WIA, which is stunning, the Workforce Investment Act, which in a moment of this kind of unemployment, the idea that we wouldn't increase investments in workforce training so that people who are making transitions to new jobs and new careers have the skills necessary. And so real investments in our education system, from Head Start to Pell Grants and beyond, has to be a key part of the strategy. And then finally, ending the war in Afghanistan. We're spending over $100 billion a year. And we're rebuilding roads and bridges and training police officers halfway around the world, and we're cutting the same things in our own country. And I believe it's time to do nation building here in America, invest those resources in rebuilding our nation's economy, and shift the responsibility, obviously, to the Afghan people for their own civilian and military institutions, and have been pressing the administration hard to do that at kind of growing numbers of members of Congress. So I think those are the strategies, but all of this this all has to be part of a bigger strategy, which is the strategy to strengthen the middle class of our country and to have tax policies to strengthen the middle class. Because if you go to small businesses in this town or in any city or town in Rhode Island, you say, what do you need? They don't say capital, they don't say a tax credit, they say we need customers. We need people to buy the goods and services we produce. And so the economic policy which the Republicans have put forth, which is basically let people at the very top hold on to as many of their resources as they can, and it will trickle down to the rest of us, led to the worst job loss in a generation. We had that under George Bush for 8 years. What I think they don't understand or don't want to understand is that what we really need is an all-inclusive, vibrant, thriving middle class that can buy the goods and services businesses produces. And so we need to be enacting policies that help families, that strengthen families, and help working people for our economy to really recover. So that would be the strategy I would use.
Excellent. So do you believe that now's the time for fiscal stimulus or austerity? And if so, what specific measures would you propose? And I know you've already gotten to some of them.
Look, I don't. I think we're seeing an example of what the consequences of austerity are in Europe right now. I don't know how many people saw Paul Krugman in Providence and Networks. But I think, look, we have two responsibilities. I think we have to make investments now that generate job growth. I mean, there's no question about that. I think also that we have to be responsible in dealing with a budget deficit, which is real, and we have to have a long-term strategy for doing that. And that has to be a balanced approach that includes cuts in spending and the generation of revenues. Every economist I've listened to said you need to do both things. You can't cut your way out of it, you can't spend your way out of it, or tax your way out of it. So it has to be balanced. But I think we have to be able to do something in the short term, which is invest in the kinds of things I talked about, and then have a longer-term strategy to deal with the deficit so that we don't suffer the same experience that the Europeans are suffering.
Right, and I'm just tagging off the deficit. Do you believe that we should use quantitative easing to stimulate the economy and reduce the public debt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any additional questions on the economy?
For how long?
I don't know. I mean, I have to be, it's not something I'm as familiar with in terms of the kind of length. I'd study it, but I mean, I think we absolutely have to do it.
But that's a decision by the Fed.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in terms of what my if you ask me
Okay,
what my
recommend.
records, I have to study that more.